A market that was supposed to cool didn't. In Massachusetts, fall arrived with more sales, higher prices, and the map lit with hotspots from Boston Harbor to the Berkshires. Start with what changed and when. In October 2025, single-family home closings in Massachusetts rose 5.6% year-over-year to 3,921. The median price for those single-family homes reached $660,000, up 2.3% from the prior October. Condos moved differently. Closed condo sales dipped 1.1%, but the median condo price still climbed 2.8% to $549,900. 1 month earlier, in September 2025, closed sales also climbed, up 4.8% for single-family homes and 6.4% for condos. The September median for a single-family home hit $654,500, a 4.7% increase from September 24, while the condo median reached $525,000, up 1.0% year-over-year. Inventory told the other side of the story in September. Single-family inventory fell 4.2% from a year earlier, while condo inventory grew 5.1%. New options did arrive, though. New single-family listings increased 7.5% year-over-year in September, and new condo listings jumped 13.3%. It's a beat-by-beat picture. Closings up in September and October, medians rising both months, and inventory tight for single-family homes, even as new listings improved. Zoom out just a little, and the heat becomes precise. A national ranking placed Springfield at number 1 for the nation's hottest housing market for a 5th straight month by September, with buyer attention more than triple the U.S. norm. September's hottest markets posted a 4.2% increase in price growth, and in the Pioneer Valley specifically, July saw an 8.6% jump in single-family sales compared to July 2024. Followed by a 6.1% year-over-year decline in August, yet both months still recorded an increase in median price. In other words, the fall story wasn't uniform, but it was undeniably strong. Across 50 Massachusetts cities and towns, tracked through September 2025, local prices rose at different speeds, but the direction was consistent. In Norwell, the typical home value climbed by $53,660 over 12 months to $1,027,653, a 5.5% gain with a 5-year increase of $368,108 or 55.8%. Egremont in the Berkshires gained $50 to $1,686 in 1 year to reach a typical value of $805,000, up 6.9% year-over-year and 73.6% across 5 years, equal to a $3,41259 climb. Weston, west of Boston, added $48,044 over the year to $2,220,602, a 2.2% increase, and rose by $832,165 over 5 years for a 59.9% leap. Wellesley added $42,206 in a year to $1,969,343, a 2.2% rise, and is up $640,686 since 5 years earlier, or 48.2%. Manchester by the Sea's typical value increased $46,657 year-over-year to $1,289,884, a 3.8% rise, with a 5-year surge of $473,998, or 58.1%. Wenham gained $46,683 in 1 year to $37,132, up 4.7%, with a 5-year climb of $383,462, or 58.4%. Put simply, momentum did not skip the high end. Lincoln rose by $36,647 over the year to $1,518,768, a 2.5% uptick, and the 5-year increase is $515,631, or 51.4%. Dover added $35,329 year over year to $1,746,599, marking a 2.1% rise and a 5-year gain of $554,678, or 46.5%. Newton climbed $34,506 to $1,499,949, up 2.4% for the year, and $417,534, or 38.6% over 5 years. Concord rose by $34,801 to $1,439,307, a 2.5% annual increase and a 5-year move of $510,696, or $50.07. Boxford's typical value increased by $37 to $260 to $1,047, up 3.3%, with a 5-year gain of $346,856, or 49.5%. Lexington rose $26,790 to $1,560, $1,212, a 1.7% annual increase with a 5-year move of $485,894, or 45.2%. Cohasset added $28,174 to $1,390,590, up 2.1% year over year, and $487,260 over 5 years, a 53.9% jump. But the heat wasn't just inside Route 128. On the North Shore, Gloucester climbed $30,224 in 1 year to $759,274, a 4.1% increase, with a 5-year rise of $263,332, or 53.1%. Wenham's 4.7% 1-year move already stands out, and nearby Hamilton increased $22,767 to $878,754, up 2.7% in a year, and $260,228, or 42.1% in 5 years. Newbury rose by $22,306 to $925,253, up 2.5% in a year, and $332,665, or 56.1%. Across 5 years, West Newbury added $19,854 to $942,399, a 2.2% annual climb, and a $321,613, or 51.8% increase over 5 years. Rowley moved up by $18,492 to $787, $48, a 2.4% 1-year gain, and a 5-year increase of $249,194, or 46.3%. Danvers added $17,993 to reach $721,646, a 2.6% annual increase, and a 5-year climb of $202,139, or 38.9%. Marblehead rose by $19,002 to $1,024,768, a 1.9% yearly increase with a 5-year move of $305,605, or 42.5%. Rockport, further up the coast, added $17,210 in a year to $860,254, a 2.0% increase, and a 5-year rise of $260,828, or 43.4%. South of Boston, the ocean towns kept pace. Situate's typical value rose by $20,586 to $976,398, up 2.2% year over year, and $337,741 over 5 years, a 52.9% climb. Duxbury added $24,087 to $1,078,17602, a 2.3% increase, with a 5-year surge of $410,180, or 61.4%. Marshfield climbed $19,792 to $774, $194, up 2.6% over the year, and $2.75, $96, or 50 to 3.6% across 5 years. Norwell, the fastest one-year increase in this set, gained $50 to $3,660 to $1,207,653, 5.5% higher year over year, and $368,000 or 55.8% higher over 5 years. Pembroke rose by $17,750 to $648,314, marking a 2.8% annual rise and a 5-year gain of $198,723, or 44.2%. Hansen added $17,658 to $598,383, up 3.0% over the year, and $181,072, or 43.4% across 5 years. West Bridgewater increased by $19,315 to $585,266, a 3.4% annual gain, and $173,334 higher across 5 years, a 42.1% rise. Head west to Worcester County, where the story blended accessibility and appreciation. Grafton moved up by $17,485 over the year to $600,841, a 3.0% increase, and a 5-year rise of $197,506, or 49.0%. Sutton increased by $17,573 to $627, $201, up 2.9% year over year, and $215,617, or 52.4% over 5 years. Berlin added $21,575 to $655,085, a 3.4% one-year gain and a 5-year rise of $198,666, or 43.5%. Methuen, in the northern stretch of Greater Boston, climbed $20,348 to $609,720, a 3.5% annual increase, with a 5-year move of $190,07,928, or 48.1%. Lawrence added $17,738 to $500,341, up 3.7% in a year, and $178,378, or 55.4%, across 5 years. Ashland increased by $18,043 to $667,142, a 2.8% yearly rise, and $209,748 higher in 5 years, equal to 45.9%. Now to the Pioneer Valley and the Berkshires, where the Springfield and Pittsfield metros tracked some of the state's sharpest shifts. East Hampton's typical value increased by $18,765 in 1 year to $422,674, up 4.6%, and moved $128,882 higher over 5 years, or 43.9%. Longmeadow rose by $20,563 to $522,062, a 4.1% annual increase, with a 5-year gain of $152,919, or 44.2%. Springfield's broader market earned its number 1 status in September by drawing more than 3 times the viewers per property than the national norm, and the top markets that month recorded a 4.2% increase in price growth. Over in the Berkshires, Stockbridge climbed $26,652 to $738,102, a 3.7% annual increase, and a 5-year gain of $283,842, or 62.5%. West Stockbridge added $20,213 to $670,000, up 3.1% over a year, and $278,653, or $70, 1.2% over 5 years. Monterey moved $28,985 higher to $729,1616, a 4.1% annual increase, and a 5-year shift of $248,486, or 51.6%. Mount Washington rose by $30,308 to $621,035, a 5.1% one-year gain, and $204,941 higher over 5 years, or 40 to 9.3%. Tyringham increased by $2,923 to $694,254, a 3.3% one-year rise, with a 5-year jump of $216,797, or 45.4%. Adams, farther north, delivered one of the fastest percentages, up $20,736 in a year to $263,580, an 8.5% surge, and $105,680 higher over 5 years, equal to 66.9%. Egremont's 6.9% one-year jump again placed it near the top statewide, and its 5-year gain of 73.6% stands out across the map. Even on the islands, the pattern is clear. Chilmark's typical value on Martha's Vineyard reached $2,325, up $17,690 in 1 year, a 0.8% increase, and up $793,789 over 5 years, a 51.9% climb. Along the coast and in the hills, the magnitude is different, but the trend is the same. Step back to the engine behind the numbers. The fall upswing came with more buyers than listings in many corners of the state. In September, new single-family listings rose 7.5% year-over-year, and new condo listings rose 13.3%, a sign of improved flow. But single-family inventory still fell 4.2% from the prior September, and that scarcity likely kept upward pressure on the median, which climbed 4.7% to $654,500 that month. Condos moved with a different rhythm. Inventory rose 5.1% year-over-year in September. New condo listings jumped by double digits. Closed condo sales increased 6.4% in September. Yet October brought a 1.1% dip in condo closings, even as the median edged up to $549,900. Signals suggest that pricing strategy mattered more with condos this fall, and the phrase some agents used was Goldilocks pricing. Not too high, not too low, because when a home was priced right, buyers stepped in. The shape of demand sharpened most clearly in Springfield. By September, the city topped the nation's hottest housing markets for the 5th straight month, with more than 3 times the usual viewers per property compared to the national baseline. That kind of attention is not subtle. It shows up in open house lines, in multiple offers, and in the way listings disappear. In the Pioneer Valley, the rhythm of the summer and early fall showed the push and pull of tight supply and eager buyers. July single-family sales rose 8.6% from July 2024, only to drop 6.1% in August year-over-year, but both months saw the median price continue to rise. In nearby East Hampton, a 4.6% one-year rise brought the typical value to $422,674 by September, and in Long Meadow, a 4.1% rise lifted the typical value to $522,060. These are smaller markets than Boston's core, but the narrative is the same. Steady demand meets limited options, and the median climbs. On the ground, that means buyers are still competing for a limited supply, especially for price points that feel attainable. One local broker in the Springfield area described the tempo changing as days on market ticked up a bit enough for buyers to take a breath, but not enough to shift negotiating power much. Their advice sounded like a checklist. Get prepped before the fun part starts, because this is still the most expensive purchase many people make, and a few days can decide whether you get the keys. Sellers heard the flip side. You can test the market slightly, but miss the just right window, and buyers move on. The fall numbers back that up. In September, closed single-family sales climbed 4.8% statewide, and the median rose 4.7% to $654,500, 1 month later, in October, single-family closings climbed 5.6% year-over-year to 3,921, and the median reached $660,000, up 2.3% from a year earlier. That sequence captures the balance buyers are active, but increasingly selective about value. The micro-markets show how selection works. In Greater Boston, Weston's typical value of $2,200 and $220,000, $602, up $48,044 over the year, draws a different buyer than Lawrence at $500,341, up $17,738 in the same span. Both rose, but the price bands and the stories diverge. Newton rose to $1,490, $949 after a $34,506 one-year increase. Boxford to $1,047, $997 after a $33,762 rise. Lexington to $1,561, $212 after a $26,000 increase. These are established, higher-cost communities, where a 1.3 to 2.5% one-year change, Winchester at 1.3%, Lincoln at 2.5%, Concord at 2.5% translates into tens of thousands of dollars. In these markets, buyers often chase school districts and proximity. Sellers price carefully because a $20,000 misstep can add weeks to the timeline. By contrast, in the Berkshires and the Pioneer Valley, percentages pop. Adams's 8.5% one-year jump to $263,580 looks dramatic, but the dollar increase, $20,736, is roughly the same as a smaller percentage move in a higher-priced suburb. Egremont's 6.9% one-year climb added $51,686 to reach $805,000. Mount Washington's 5.1% annual increase added $30,308 to reach $621,035. Monterey's 4.1% rise added $28,985 to reach $729,616. These swings, coupled with 5-year increases like 73.6% in Egremont and 71.2% in West Stockbridge, demonstrate how pandemic-era demand reshaped smaller communities. The real estate frenzy that swept the country persisted in Massachusetts, though growth slowed from its peak. Still, the 5-year slopes are steep. In coastal towns, the sea breeze did not cool prices. Gloucester's $30,224 one-year bump to $759,274, a 4.1% increase, suggests steady demand on Cape Ann. Situate's $20,586 rise to $976,398, a 2.2% increase, points to similar dynamics on the South Shore. Duxbury's $24.78 to $70.78 to $70.65, up 2.3%, and Marshfield's $19.792, one-year increase to $774,194, up 2.6%, extend the pattern. Inland from the coast, Norwell's $53,660 surge to $1,277,653 leads the one-year pack at 5.5%. In the North Shore interior, Wenham's 4.7% rise to $1,040,132 after a $46,683 one-year increase is among the fastest percentages in the Boston metro area list. Manchester's 3.8% rise to $1,282,804, with a $46,657 one-year increase, is another standout. Even smaller moves in high-dollar suburbs matter. Wellesley's 2.2% rise to $1,969,343 added $42,206. Weston's 2.2% rise to $2,220,602 added $48,044. Dover's 2.1% rise to $1,746,599 added $35,329. Set against national context, the shift is stark. In September, the typical home value across the United States was $364,891, essentially flat year over year at 0.0% growth. Massachusetts towns routinely show typical values 2, 3, even 6 times that national figure. Lincoln at $1,518,768, Needham at $1,513,544, Cohasset at $1,390,000, and Chilmark at $2,322,845. Even mid-market communities like Methuen at $609,720 or Grafton at $600,841 sit far above the national typical value. The premiums likely reflect a blend of long-term scarcity, income patterns, and amenity demand. But this fall, the mechanism appeared simpler. Listings remained limited for single-family homes, and buyers paid up. There's another signal in the condo numbers. In September, condo inventory increased 5.1% year over year, and new condo listings jumped 13.3%. Closed condo sales also increased 6.4% that month, and the median rose 1.0% to $525,000. 1 month later, October's condo closings edged down 1.1%, even as the condo median moved up to $549,900, a 2.8% year-over-year increase. The mix matters. Some buildings pull multiple offers, others linger, and the solution points back to the same guidance. Pick the right price. In balanced pricing, homes find buyers. Overshoot and days on market accumulate. Undershoot and you leave money on the table. Across the map of 50 tracked Massachusetts cities and towns through September, the 5-year climbs mark the longer arc. Weston rose $1,832,165 over 5 years, a 59.9% increase, while Wellesley rose $640,686, up 48.2%. Lincoln climbed $515,630, $1 up 51.4%. Dover $554,678, up 46.5%. Concord $510,696, up 55.0%. Newton $417,534, up 38.6%. On the North Shore, Manchester rose $473,998 in 5 years, up 58.1%. Wenham 3 Haiti $3,462, up 58.4%. Gloucester $263,332, up 53.1%. Marblehead $305,605, up 42.5%. South Shore towns followed suit. Duxbury up $410,180, up 60.1%. Situate up $337,741, up 52.9%. Marshfield up $270,096, up 53.60. Norwell up $368, $108, up 55.8%. Worcester County towns also kept pace. Grafton up $197,506, up 49.0%. Sutton up $215,617, up 52.4%. Berlin up $198,666. In the Berkshires, 5-year moves were some of the steepest. Egremont up $341,259, up 73.6%. West Stockbridge up $278,653, up 71.2%. Stockbridge up $283,842, up 66.5%. Adams up $105,680, up 66.9%. Monterey up $248,486, up $5,216,797, up 45.4%. Mount Washington up $204,941, up 49.3%. Even inland communities closer to Springfield showed durable increases. East Hampton up $128,000, $882, up 43.9%. Longmeadow up $159,919, up 44.2%. What happened next this fall is a lesson in cadence. September's statewide numbers signaled momentum. Closed sales up 4.8% for single-family and 6.4% for condos. Single-family median up 4.7% to $654,500. Condo median up 1.0% to $525,000. Then October confirmed buyers weren't done. Single-family closings up 5.6% year-over-year to 3,921. Single-family median up 2.3% to $660,000. Condos down 1.1% in closings, but up 2.8% in median to $549,000. The openings widened. Single-family inventory still 4.2% lower in September than a year earlier. Condo inventory 5.1% higher. New single-family listings up 7.5%. New condo listings up 13.3%. The push-pull effect looks simple on paper, but on a street in Springfield or Scituate, it plays out at the pace of showing windows and inspection contingencies. In Springfield, more than 3 times the viewers per property compared to the national baseline in September meant listings drew attention instantly. Across those top markets in September, price growth of 4.2% added lift. Who felt it? Buyers first. A family looking in Pembroke at $648,314 after a $17,750 one-year rise felt different constraints than a renter in Lawrence weighing $500,341 after a $17,738 increase. In the Berkshires, a first-time buyer in Adams at $263,580 after an 8.5% one-year surge faced less competition in dollars, but a faster percentage move in prices. In Boston's western suburbs, buyers evaluated Lexington at $1,560 after a $26,790 one-year increase, or Weston at $2,220,602 after a $48,044 increase. Sellers felt it too. Priced too aggressively, and even in hot pockets, days on market ticked up a bit. Calibrate into the Goldilocks zone, and closings posted gains 4.8% in September for single-family, 5.6% in October. Springfield is where the story crystallizes into a human moment. A local broker there described buyers often wanting to jump straight to showings, but emphasized that preparation matters because this remains the largest purchase most people will make. They pointed to a slight increase in days on market as a healthy sign for buyers, even while acknowledging that price drops haven't materialized in a meaningful way. That anecdote squares with the measured rise in medians across July and August in the Pioneer Valley, even as August single-family sales fell 6.1% year-over-year after July's 8.6% increase. Buyers got a touch more time, sellers still held an edge if they priced right. Now connect the dots from local to statewide to the wider economy. Across 50 tracked Massachusetts cities and towns through September, annual changes ranged from 0.8% in Chilmark to 8.5% in Adams, with most communities stacked between 2.0% and 5.5%. Dollar moves ran from $17,210 in Rockport to $53,660 in Norwell. 5-year climbs tallied from 38.6% in Newton to 73.6% in Egremont. In September, condo inventory rose 5.1% year-over-year, a potential pressure valve, while single-family inventory fell 4.2%, a continuing constraint. New listings helped 7.5% higher for single-family, 13.3% higher for condos. The national typical home value in September sat at $364,891, unchanged year-over-year at 0.0%, while Massachusetts communities routinely printed typical values of $600,000 and $700,000, with numerous towns above $1,000. In October, statewide single-family closings hit 3,921, up 5.6% year-over-year, median $660,000, up 2.3%. Condo closings slipped 1.1%, median $549,900, up 2.8%. Through-line causes emerge. Signals suggest that limited single-family inventory, persistent buyer demand in targeted submarkets, and pricing discipline combined to keep the market active even as some segments saw growth slow. The pandemic-era frenzy is no longer at peak speed, but buyer competition for affordable price points continues to drive price appreciation. In places like Methuen, Grafton, Sutton, and East Hampton each, with typical values between roughly $422,674 and $1,674, $142 by September, and annual gains ranging from 2.8% to 4.6%. In higher dollar suburbs, Newton at $1,499,949, Lexington at $1,561,212, Wellesley at $1,969,343. Small percentage moves translated into large shifts in absolute dollars, attracting buyers with deeper resources and reinforcing the mid to high-end floor. Seasonality added nuance. September's uptick in new listings, 7.5% for single-family and 13.3% for condos, suggested sellers stepped in ahead of the holidays. With closed sales also up that month, 4.8% for single-family and 6.4% for condos, transactions didn't stall. October's single-family surged to 3,921 closings, up 5.6%, implies that buyer pipelines filled earlier in the fall translated into closings by October. Condos saw a split, a 1.1% dip in closings in October, alongside a 2.8% year-over-year rise in the median to $549,900. That could reflect a mix shift toward higher-priced units or straightforward appreciation within the segment. Either way, it reinforces the idea that pricing balance mattered. Geography filled in the micro details. North Shore towns, such as Gloucester, at $759,274, up 4.1% year-over-year, Wenham at $1,040,132, up 4.7%, and Manchester at $1,282, $884, up 3.8%, track steady demand for coastal access and established neighborhoods. The South Shores situate at $976,398, up 2.2%, Duxbury at $1,078, $765, up 2.3%, and Marshfield at $774, up 2.6%, showed similar stability. Near Boston, Newton's $190,699, $949, $69 after a 2.4% annual increase, and Lexington's $1,561,212 after a 1.7% increase reflected consistent premium demand. Inland Worcester County towns offered relative value with momentum. Grafton at $610.81, up 3.0%. Sutton at $610.27, $201, up 2.9%. Berlin at $610.55, 80 to 5%, up 3.4%. In the Pioneer Valley, East Hampton at $422,674, up $426, and Longmeadow at $522,062, up $421, coupled with Springfield's national hot status by September, underlined one theme. Buyers hunting for space and price-accessible options still had to compete. The 5-year lens shows how anchored these patterns have become. In Boston's orbit, Concord's typical value rose by $510,696 over 5 years to $1,439,337, a 55.0% rise. Lincoln's rose $515,631 to $1,518,760, up 51.4%. Weston's rose $830 to $1,165 to $220,602, up 59.9%, and Wellesley's rose $640,686 to $1,960, $343, up 48.2%. On the South Shore, Duxbury's 5-year climb of $410,180 to $1,765, up 61.4%, and Norwell's climb of $368,108 to $1,027,650, up 50 to 5.8%, stand out. In the North Shore, Wenham's $303,4620 rise to $1.4,132, up 58.4%, and Manchester's $473,998 rise to $1,289,000, $8.80, $9,008.84, up 52.8%, carry the same tune. Out west, Egremont's $341,259, 5-year rise to $805,000, up 73.6%, and West Stockbridge's $278, $653 rise to $670,106, up 71.2%, show that smaller towns can post steeper arcs. Adams's $105,680 increase to $263,580, up 66.9%, is a reminder that percentage growth in lower price brackets can outpace the rest of the state. Practical takeaways flow from these numbers. For sellers, September's increase in new listings, 7.5% for single-family, 13.3% for condos, was met with more closings, up 4.8% and 6.4% respectively. October confirmed buyer strength on the single-family side with 3,921 closings, a 5.6% year-over-year rise. That's a recipe for confidence, but only if pricing is tuned. Balanced Goldilocks pricing drew strong interest this fall. Overpricing in a market where days on market have inched up a bit could turn an eager crowd into a trickle of lookers. Underpricing can leave 5 or even 6 figures on the table in high-dollar areas where small percentage swings equate to large dollar amounts. For buyers, the tactic is different by segment. In Springfield and its surrounding communities, the signal from September is clear. More than 3 times the viewers per property means speed still matters. A 4.2% increase in price growth across the hottest markets underscores that waiting for a discount may be a waiting game without a clock. In the Worcester Metro, towns like Grafton at $600,841, Sutton at $627,200, and Berlin at $655,85 saw one-year increases between 2.9% and 3.4%, with 5-year growth from 43.5% to 52.4%. These are steady, not spiky, and buyers there may find relative value with less frenzied competition than Boston's core. In Greater Boston, where Newton sits at $1,495,949, and Lexington at $1,561,212, budget bands, narrow choices, and a 1.7 to 2.5% annual increase can still add $26,790 to $34,801 in 1 year. For coastal town buyers, decisions are framed by numbers like $976,398 in Scituate, $978 in Duxbury, or $759,259 in Gloucester. For island buyers, it's $2,320, $2,845 in Chilmark. All of it adds up to a fall market that resisted gravity. Statewide, October's single-family median of $660,000 was 2.3% above the prior year. September's single-family median of $654,500 was 4.7% above its prior year level. Condos tracked higher, in both months up 1.0% in September to $525,000, and up 2.8% in October to $549,900, even with a 1.1% year-over-year decline in October condo closings. Single-family inventory in September, 4.2% lower than a year earlier, remained a bottleneck, while condo inventory 5.1% higher offered a mild release. New listings in September provided momentum, 7.5% higher for single-family and 13.3% higher for condos, and likely fed October's 5.6% year-over-year rise in single-family closings to 3,921. What's next? Base case, Massachusetts enters late fall and early winter with steady pricing and selective strength. The single-family side still looks tight based on September's 4.2% year-over-year inventory decline and October's 5.6% rise in closings to 3,921, with the median at $660,000, 2.3% higher than a year earlier. The condo side bears watching. Inventory rose 5.1% year-over-year in September, new listings jumped 13.3%, and closings rose 6.4% that month, but October closings dipped 1.1%, even as the median climbed 2.8% to $549,900. Signals suggest price-right listings will continue to move, while overreaches may sit longer as buyers become more discerning into the holidays. Two watch items stand out through December 2025. First, track new listings. If single-family new listings sustain September's 7.5% year-over-year increase and condos keep near a 13.3% pace, buyers could see slightly more choice into year-end, potentially smoothing the pressure that lifted September's single-family median by 4.7% to $654,500 and October's to $660,000. Second, monitor Springfield's intensity. With more than 3 times the viewers per property in September and a 5-month run at number 1 among the nation's hottest markets, any cooling or further acceleration will send a quick signal about buyer confidence in value markets statewide. A sustained 4.2% pace of price growth across the top markets would maintain pressure. A taper would restore balance. Even with those caveats, the fall picture is clear. In 50 Massachusetts communities tracked through September, one-year gains ranged from 0.8% in Chilmark to 8.5% in Adams. Dollar increases from $17,210 in Rockport to $53,660 in Norwell, and 5-year climbs from 38.6% in Newton to 73.6% in Egremont. September's statewide sales rose 4.8% for single-family and 6.4% for condos. October's single-family closings rose 5.6% to 3,921, medians rose to $654,500 in September and $660,000 in October for single-family, and to $525,000 and $549,900 for condos. Inventory split down 4.2% for single-family and up 5.1% for condos in September, new listings up 7.5% and 13.3% respectively. In a national landscape where the typical home value in September was $364,891, flat year-over-year at 0.0%, Massachusetts kept writing its own line. If you want more of this kind of clear-eyed, data-anchored walkthrough of what's really moving the market, subscribe and join me for the next deep dive.